Hello, hi y'all. I am lives get me every time because I never know if I'm doing them right. We are going to be hearing from Coach Steph today. Super excited. And so I am waiting for her to join us. If you are like new, I'm here. I'm Nike, and I partner with millennial women. I help them to start and stay on a wellness journey with clarity and confidence and ease. And I keep health simple. So I provide content just on different tools, different pieces of information to just contribute to your whole self in all areas of your wellness. And so, Coach Steph, I have joining us today to share with us some really good nuggets concerning common mistakes that people are making on their health journey. So I'm excited. She is. Let me add her. Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So I am gonna just kind of jump right in and get started. I am gonna save this so people can go back and watch it later. And then I have some questions that people submitted before that aren't able to watch it right now. So when
Okay.
even I will go through those. But before we get started, just let everyone know like who you are, what you do, and just a little bit about you.
So my name is Stephanie Riles. I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm working as a weight loss and mindset coach. So I work virtually with women who are really trying to ditch the self-sabotage. They want to lose the weight for good. They're tired of losing the same 15 pounds over and over again. So that's the clientele that I like really love helping. So I really do a lot of mindset work
Mm,
in terms of like health journey and getting people to the point where they have confidence in themselves to show up for themselves on a consistent basis. We redefine what consistency means. We talk about perfectionism and how that's keeping you stuck. A lot of the mindset issues that people really don't think about when they are on a health journey. So I live in Texas. I'm a mom of two. And so, yeah, I've been doing this for a while now. It's my dream job. I
yeah.
love what I do. So, yeah.
And it's so cool even seeing you light up talking about it. Like your energy and your joy for what you do. You can tell you're super passionate about it. So I love that.
Yeah. I've had a job before that I really hated. So I really enjoy what I do. I'm super grateful for being able to do what I do. So, yeah.
Yes, I can definitely relate. I feel like the jobs that were toxic or that I didn't enjoy helped me to appreciate the moments when I'm thriving and doing something that I'm super passionate about.
Real talk.
Like, yes, but
Yes.
I love that you address mindset with your clients. Is so huge, and I feel like it's really rare in the more health and wellness space. So that's super super cool. You offer that in your coaching. I love that.
Yeah.
And I know today, like I commonly hear a lot from this community, and even when I was treating patients in clinic, that there's just a lot of confusion and overwhelm and just a lot of conflicting information in the health and wellness space, especially with the nutrition piece. And so I am so excited to be able to hear the just common things that you have seen that you know people are making and or just common mistakes in their own health journey. Because I feel like that's what gets people kind of like you said, that self sabotage and not following consistency that they want that's defined for them, because it's just the information becomes confusing and overwhelming. So super excited to hear what you have to share with us. And you can go ahead and just start with some things that you wanted to share about the common mistakes people are making.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the most foundational things that I really talk about, like I mentioned earlier, is mindset. So number one is really they forget about the mindset piece. So when you're trying to create a new path for yourself, some new habits for yourself, you really want to think about how can I give myself mental space to actually figure out how this is going to go, right? Because a lot of times our mind wants to be on autopilot. And so if your autopilot isn't giving you the result that you want to create time every week, especially every week, if not every day, just like 5 minutes, just 10 minutes of refocusing on your goals, of making an intention, like setting, okay, I'm going to be actionable and intentional with, these one or two steps every day, and giving yourself some space and some time to mentally figure out how you're going to get to your goal. What is your goal? Why do you want this? And like revisit that often. A lot of times people set a goal, they might write it down, they might do it a couple of weeks, and then they don't have a time on your schedule to actually go back and let's revisit this. Let's see what's working and what's not. So that it doesn't matter what your goal is, you're going to have to revisit it on a very regular basis and put that on your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So another piece to that is having some sort of system to reset yourself. So if you're using a calendar, you're using a planner, that's really important, because whenever you talk about, we talked about having the mental space, but like in your actual day, what does that look like? In your week, what does that look like when you have appointments that pop up? During maybe your workout time, or if you have people, a lot of my clients experience, they're the strong one. And so it's like everyone needs them and they're pulling them and asking them to do things. How are you setting boundaries around your time?
Yeah.
How are you thinking about your time? And how are you scheduling the things that are important and priority to you? How are you rescheduling that based on what's coming up in your week? So if you get mindset and boundaries and like time management and your schedule together, like that's half the battle, because then the nutrition and the fitness part become a little bit more easy, because even if you quote unquote fall off, you still have a designated time to like refocus. So people, I think, don't set up that time to refocus, and it's kind of like, oh, if I have a bad week, or maybe I'm emotionally eating one day because something's going on, it's just kind of like they have no reset and it just veers off into the distant month.
Yeah.
Right. So one, creating mental time and space to reset, and then two, having a schedule and a set routine, and establishing some sort of routine for yourself and having a system to kind of reset yourself. And then changing, a lot of times people are like, okay, I want to make this change, whatever your goal is. And they're like, they change everything all at the same time. It's too much.
Yeah.
Like it's just too much, like too high of expectations. And then when you don't meet those expectations, it's like you feel like you failed, or you feel like there's a start and stop. You feel like, oh, well, now gotta start over on Monday. And so that's like a big thing. Like people are always making these rules of, oh, I have to start over on Monday. Or if I didn't lose 5 pounds this week, then I might as well just, forget it. Or I ate cheesecake and now, the week is just shot. Like these are not true. They're self-sabotaging thoughts, right? And so overloading your plate with too many obligations trying to change everything at one time, saying yes to everyone and everything, and putting your health on the back burner is self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
It's very tricky.
Yeah, it is. And I like when you shared about the loading, trying to change everything at once and then set high expectations. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy of course, you didn't achieve it because you tried to do everything at once and then add all these things. And I never thought of it as self-sabotage in that way. So it's like people are already kind of working on themselves before they even get a chance to build momentum. So
Yeah.
that's super, super important.
The self-sabotage piece is when I started talking about self-sabotage, I was doing some research and I was like, oh my God, self-sabotage is very tricky. It comes up in resistance to doing the thing. Like you don't know why it is, you just can't just go in there and meal prep. Like it comes up as resistance, it comes up as procrastination, avoiding the thing. You're sitting in your bed negotiating, like, okay, should I get up and do this, whatever it is. It shows up as perfectionism. Like if I can't do everything right, then I won't do anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Overloading your plate. Like it's very deceptive because it's like in your mind, it makes total sense. It makes total sense, but actually there's a way that you can think about it that will get you the result that you want versus just giving into like the first thought or the first rule that you make up for yourself, which may not even really be true.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Um, I've got a couple more if
Okay.
you want more.
Yeah, I
Okay.
did want to say I love when you said reset yourself because I love the idea of autocorrecting in the midst of almost like when you're driving, if you hit a patch of black ice, you can kind of autocorrect and get yourself back on track. And so I love that being that practical to have a system or a day or time or whatever to reset and figure out, okay, what is going on? How am I doing and why? And how can I correct it? So I love that you share.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then another one would be people allow like the weekends a lot of times to sabotage. So they may do really well with planning throughout the week, but then on the weekends, they either fail to plan or something pops up. And then again, they don't have that reset time. So then that bleeds into the next week. And then before you know it, weeks have passed by. Or even like vacations, right? So you're on vacation, you're living your best life, you're doing the do, whatever it is. And then come back and you have no plan. Like you come back late Sunday night, you got to go to work in the morning, and it's like there's no reset,
I
right? So I always encourage people, like if they are going on vacation, that before you go on vacation, you make a plan of what you're going to do when you come back. Like, how am I going to reset as soon as I come back? Like, what am I going to eat? If I'm coming back late Sunday night, what am I eating on Monday morning? Do I have that ready? Can I boil some eggs or can I, you know,
mm-hmm.
how can I put that in perspective and plan ahead? So I always like to tell my clients, like, you get to decide um, ahead of time. Like, you can decide ahead of time. So not just living in every moment. We want to be present, but we also want to plan ahead. So weekends, vacays, parties, birthdays. I know some people who like plan or, they celebrate their birthday all month.
Yeah.
And so it's just like this one big long party. So you have to figure out how am I going to reel this back in?
Yeah. And I love that you
And
mentioned that though, Steph, because I feel like it goes back to the rules of boxing themselves in their own box, where this idea of just like, oh, it's almost like either the guilt of, well, vacation, I did all these things, so now I might as well just give up because I treated myself. And it's like, but you're making these rules, like they're not firm rules. So it's like,
right.
you can see how all of the cycle kind of just perpetuates itself once you kind of get sucked into that like self-sabotaging a little bit.
Yep. Yep. And it's very common. And I think that no one talks about reset. Nobody talks about that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just about the meal plan, the workout, or whatever. But I think that you have to go a little bit deeper for sustainable change.
Yeah.
So another thing is comparison.
Yes.
So again, that's just mindset. Like I haven't even told you what to eat yet, right? Like we haven't even gotten that far. Comparing your results or someone else maybe, lost faster or she looks great and now I feel bad about myself. And now it's like it's self-confidence. You have to build a new self-image for yourself. So the person that you see yourself as. I've had people tell me that, oh, I'm lazy. And I'm like, wow, that blows me away. Like I've never in my life thought I'm lazy. Like that's just not in my DNA. Like I'm just like, okay, so if that's the thought in your mind, you literally think that sentence in your mind, it's really hard to get a positive result with
Mm-hmm.
that thought, right? Like your thoughts and your results, as we both know, are the
Yeah.
same, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how are we going to get a positive result with that thought? So um,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that we're creating a new self image for ourselves and not comparing our results to someone else's results. Another way of comparing too is comparing like this sustainable journey to like a previous like fad thing that they did in the past. And so
Mm.
they're like, oh, well, I had super fast results with this fad thing. And I'm like, well, that didn't last, right? So that fad diet, that thing where that you were restricting yourself and you weren't eating at all,
Yeah.
you were eating watermelon and cantaloupe or something, that didn't work. Like that's not how you want to live your life, right?
Yeah.
So now you don't want to compare this sustainable journey where you are creating a new self-image, you are creating a new identity for yourself to something that maybe have got you temporary results but didn't last long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a comparison in that as well that I just don't think is helpful. Um, yeah. So did you want to chime in on that one? I'm sorry, I'm just
Yeah.
talking.
Well, because no, you're good. These are also good because, and this is, I love this because again, mindset is just kind of tossed out. And like you said, everyone's like, okay, get the diet, get the exercise, and go. But I'm like, all of these points are why people don't see that sustainable change. And even you alluded to like the comparison of an outward and inward comparison. I think a lot of times people just think of the outward comparison of someone else's goals or results, but then never realizing that they are battling their own inward comparison. Even when, if they are some of my clients are moms, and so they compare to when they weren't moms and what they were doing and how they were feeling, and it's just almost like they compare to that. And so bringing them to the point of like, this is a new season for you as a mom and things will be different. So how can you, I love it, you said, create that self image for yourself of going forward, and what is that person going to be and look like, and let that kind of dictate how you apply yourself in your journey. So I love that you mentioned the outward and inward comparison.
Yeah, because I think too, as far as moms are concerned, um, I was just talking to a client the other day and she's like, I lost myself. And I hear that so many times, like you just lose yourself and you're just doing things to make other people happy, which kind of like goes into my next point of putting everyone else's needs above your needs and above your health journey. And so I just did a story about this today of like if your belief system, so we have thoughts like sentences in our brain, right? But then we also have beliefs that aren't even sentences, they're just there and we actually operate out of those beliefs. So for example, I have a client who um, basically is kind of like the martyr of the family. Like she is the one that's, taking on everybody else's problems, watching everybody's kids. And it's just like, okay, who told you that you have to sacrifice yourself or that doing something for yourself is selfish? No one actually told her that sentence, right? And she doesn't actually think that sentence in her mind of I have to put myself last, putting myself first is selfish. She doesn't think that thought, but somewhere in her belief system, she believes that she has to put everyone's um, needs above
Yeah.
hers, which
Mm-hmm.
is why she feels guilty whenever she tries to put her own self first. And
Mm-hmm.
so those beliefs really, really matter. And
Yeah.
so when you're putting everyone else's needs above your own, even if I gave you the best meal plan, even if I gave you the best workout, if you feel like everyone else's needs are above my own, then you're not going to stay consistent.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're going to have to say, no, I actually got to go do this thing. Or maybe, my meditation session is today and I can't, pick your kid up or whatever.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries, like we don't talk
Mhm.
about setting boundaries on your time. One of the things that I do with my clients is we do a time management audit. Like, how many notifications are going off on your phone? How many apps can we delete?
Yeah.
Like, how many of those can we take off? It's about doing less and not more. Like,
Yeah.
taking off all of your notifications. This helped me so much. Taking away all notifications and then setting an alarm every few hours to go in, and I decide when I'm checking all of my notifications.
Hmm.
Not every time, ding, 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 ding.
Yep. Yep.
That's too much.
Yeah.
Now I get to decide when I pick up my phone and when I see notifications, and I'm not at someone else's mercy all the time.
Hmm.
So
I love
just
that.
setting those boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the beliefs is such a big one because even I had to address that in my own life in terms of right now I'm in a caregiver role. And I had to address my own beliefs of, well, if I don't A, B, and C, then they're going to think I'm not being a great daughter. And my therapist was like, who said that? I was like, oh, no one said that. She was like, so where did that come from? And I was like, I think that came from me. I was like, I was so taken aback, like, oh, I'm doing all these decisions and putting all this pressure. My anxiety is up, and literally, I'm the person making all of these things up. So I think that's such a big, big thing, I think, for people to tap into is what are the beliefs that you have that are subconsciously feeding into what you're doing. So
Yeah.
that's like, yeah, that's really, really deep. I love that.
Yeah. The mindset part is the biggest piece. The in just identifying with your higher self. So, like I said, when you get the mindset and the boundaries and the schedule, the nutrition and the fitness is easy. So, what I always tell people, I really hone in on the mindset, and then I tell them, okay, if you really want to change something in your diet, take a photo. Like, just take a photo of your what you're eating every day for a week. Then look at those pictures all together and say, are there vegetables here? Like, how much water am I drinking? Like, change one or two things for the next week and let that be as simple as it gets. Like, now you're just changing, oh, okay, I'm just going to change one or two things.
Mm,
Focus on that and then go from, we don't have to know how you're going to be eating in 6 weeks from now. Just change one or two little things and then go from there. It's like, it can be really that.
I love that. I love, especially because I'm a visual learner. So even the idea of visually seeing what I'm eating, it's
It's an
like,
eye opener.
yeah, because when you said that, I'm like, wow, when you're just kind of eating, and I think a mindful eating is a whole nother topic, but when you're kind of eating, you're not really aware, but then to look back at a picture and to see color, to see texture, to take really be like, oh, that's what oh, wow. And for you to make that determination of what you see missing, I feel like it's so powerful that the person has that autonomy to feel empowered of like, oh, let me add this in or let me change that. And I just love how you offered the one or two things. Like no one's saying you have to go and change the whole meal.
Right.
Learn how to cook a whole separate type of diet that you've never even been accustomed to before. So
Yeah.
I love that visual. That is like, I love that. I'm gonna be sharing that with my clients. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's a powerful thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, those are a few tips that I had. I want to get to your questions too.
Yeah. So I really, before I get to those, I just want to say like all the different things that you brought up are honestly are things that people can work on before they even get to start doing like diet or exercise in terms of what should they be doing, how should they be doing it, because I feel like that's going to help them establish roots to be able to grow something that's going to produce fruit for them in the way that they want it to if they start with this mindset stuff. And I think it's so cool that you provided so many different pockets of how it can be influencing their life and their decisions and all of that. So that was, I love that. Um, so some of the questions here. So one was, and if you all have any questions, there's a little feature at the bottom. You can submit a question as well. But someone asks, should I be tracking my calories if I'm attempting to lose weight?
So I always recommend that you track in some way, right? So that doesn't have to look like MyFitnessPal. It doesn't have to look like tracking your macros. I don't love MyFitnessPal, like just me personally, like when I try things that my clients try, like I try to do them
Yes.
just so that I'll have a personal experience with it. And I personally don't love it. I know lots of people like it's almost like either you really like MyFitnessPal or you really don't.
Mm,
And so like if that after you try it, I always, recommend anything new, it might not be comfortable at first, but you try it and then see if it sticks for you. But if that's not how you want to proceed, that's not what is necessary. Like you
yeah.
can literally track your habits. Like I have a habit tracker somewhere around here.
I love
That's literally
that.
like, am I drinking, half my body weight in water? And so I'll just, color that in. And so for me, being visual, I'm trying to string together these habits.
Hmm.
And so I like to see like, oh, I got like 5 in a row. You don't want to break that cycle. So it can literally be as simple as you tracking habits. So most people know like you want to drink plenty of water, you want to eat lean protein, you want to stay away from fast food, you want to cook at home, right? Like these simple things. So you could really just start out by brain dumping all the things that you already know. Because people always say, like, I don't know where to start. And I always challenge them. I'm like, you do, somewhere to start. So
Hmm.
you can brain dump, like, these are all the things, like areas where I probably could eat a little bit better. And then start working on those habits one week at a time.
Hmm.
But you can do MyFitnessPal, you can track your macros or your calories or count food groups, or you can work on habits. Literally, it all works. It just depends on what you want to do,
Mm.
right? Like how do you what's going to make this process the most enjoyable for you, because that means it's going to be sustainable for you.
Yes. I love that. What's enjoyable to you, man? So this next one is, what is clean eating?
So it's not well defined, right? There's a lot of buzzwords that come up like on in the media that don't have a lot of like clinical application.
Hmm.
So clean eating has lots, it means different things to different people.
Mm.
So I think most people, when they say clean eating, they mean eating whole foods, um, eating more like single ingredient foods,
Hmm.
like chicken or, chicken and broccoli is so cliche, but that's always what the
I know.
first thing that comes to my
Or
mind.
salmon and sweet potatoes. I feel like people
Yeah.
saying that.
Yeah. It means like eating real food, not something that was like manufactured. That's kind of what my take on it is. Again, lots of people have lots of different definitions for it. So there's not just one definition for clean eating.
Yeah. And I would agree. I think the buzzwords, and like they kind of have ebbs and flows, where one buzzword is like super popular during a period of time and then something will change. And I think that's part of what confuses people as well. It's just like all the change with buzzwords and stuff over time. But with all the things that you shared thus far, is like honestly keeping it simple and the basics helps it to not be so confusing and overwhelming. If you just
Hmm.
keep it simple. Um,
Yep.
and then another question was, what's one piece of nutritional advice that you would give?
Well, we talked about keeping it simple before, but I would say if you're just starting out, focus on habits. You don't need somebody's meal plan. You don't need to revolutionize your whole diet. You just need to start as simple as possible. So, like, if you rated five being the hardest and one being like the easiest thing that you can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want that change that you pick to be like on a scale of like a 1 or 2. You want it to be very simple for you to do, because it's more important that you do it daily and consistently than do pick a whole bunch of stuff that you do very inconsistently.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's really it's about what you pick, like the habit that you pick, but it's more so that you do that habit on a consistent basis. Um, so I would start there. So let's say though that your nutrition is pretty good, but maybe there are certain habits maybe that you have already mastered, and maybe you want to get even better at it. So I would just say, like we talked about yesterday, of habit stacking. So
Yeah.
continue to do those habits, and then start, adding in like eating the rainbow. Like how many different colors of vegetables that can you get in? And so you're eating whole foods, you're eating nutrient dense foods. And so, green vegetables have certain nutrients. Red vegetables have certain nutrients. Yellow vegetables have different nutrients. So that's why people say like eat the rainbow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think if after you get the basics, number one, the basics work. Okay. If
Right.
people, if
Say it
people,
again for the people in the back.
yes, the basics work, y'all. So, and we were talking about this too, like people always want more tips. And the thing is, what you know right now about nutrition. I mean, most people know enough to get the results that they need or want. It's just implementing what you know, which is the mindset,
Yeah.
which is why we talk so much about mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're finding that there's a blockage or something that you're not getting with nutrition, go to mindset and see where that could be lacking. But I would say too, I always tell people, eat protein is one of the most important macronutrients. So you want to make sure you're eating protein at every meal. Every meal and snack, you're eating some sort of protein.
Now, because you mentioned that, the next question was, what are good sources of protein?
Okay. Yeah. So if you're a meat eater, eating chicken, eating turkey, um, eggs, you can have, like, I don't know if most people know this, but in an egg, the cholesterol and the fat is in the yolk. So you can, eat more of the egg whites. That's just protein. Um, so if you're a like vegan or vegetarian, you can eat things like chickpeas, beans, lentils, and of course, vegetables do have some protein. It's just not as much as like a piece of chicken. So if you're like a vegetarian or vegan, you just want to eat a large variety of different types so that you can get all the nutrients that you need. Most people, and I'm going to say most,
Yeah.
get enough protein, but I find that sometimes with women, um, the standard is okay, but really focusing on getting that protein each meal is really important and can help a lot. So especially if you're somebody like that has diabetes or something like that, having protein is really important so it doesn't spike your insulin levels, and things like that. So yeah, did I answer that question?
Yeah.
Cheese has protein, um, eggs, any kind of dairy, meat, beans, nuts, seeds.
Yeah. It sounds like too the person maybe had more perspective of that there would be only a certain amount, but based on what you're saying, it's diversified. It doesn't have to just be two or three things to be a good source of protein. There's just a lot of options available.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
No,
if
I'm
you're
saying
eating,
you answered it. I think
oh,
that,
okay.
yeah. You answered. I think when they asked the question, that's kind of like the mindset that they had was that there were only
Okay.
a couple options, but you explained it really well. It's super variety out there for people. Um,
Okay.
and then the last thing was just like, what is the difference between like a dietitian and a nutritionist? Like, are there certain indications when you should see one versus the other, or does it matter?
Yeah. So a registered dietitian is a protected term. So just like I can't say like, oh, I'm Dr. Riles and like prescribe you some medicine. I don't have the educational credentials for that. So being a registered dietitian is a protected term. It means that you have a degree in nutrition. It means that you have gone through the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and done an internship. You have had clinical practice. It means that you have passed the test. It means that you have continuing education credits.
Mm.
And so we have to work in under a certain level of ethics. So if something happens or we commit a crime or something that goes against our license, and so it's a protected term, and we also have to abide by certain rules.
Mm.
So a nutritionist is typically not protected, and anyone can call themselves a nutritionist at any point with no training. The thing that makes it confusing is that some dietitians call, they think that I only do weight loss, or like
Oh.
most dietitians just do weight loss,
Mhm.
and that's not the case. Most dietitians really work in clinical, and that's what I did for the longest time, working in hospitals, acute care, long-term care. We're doing tube feedings, feeding patients intravenously, doing a diabetic education. It was a lot more clinical, looking at labs and stuff like that. So
Mm.
um, some dietitians call themselves nutritionists, so that gets confusing. And then in certain states have like a certification for nutritionists.
Okay.
So they're not dietitians, but there are certifications to be a
Mm.
nutritionist. So it is kind of confusing. I think you mentioned, when do you need to see one versus the other? If you're having medical issues, because what dietitians are trained in is medical nutrition therapy. That is what we
Mm.
get educated in. So if you're having a medical issue like diabetes, kidney failure, heart disease, things like that, like I would recommend going to a dietitian for those things. So yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I feel like that provided a lot of clarity because I
Okay.
mean, even I feel like the term before I learned about it, I was using it just kind of interchangeably, just without just thinking they were the same. And so when I first learned, I was like, oh, I did not realize that. So then
Yeah,
it kind of shifted it even in my brain if I get a client or something to make sure I refer them to the right practitioner based on what it is their subjective report is or whatever. So no, that was super clear. Um,
yeah.
and so that was all the questions that we had. And then no new ones came in while we were going or
I
talking.
think my sister's on. Hi, sister. I think my sister's
Oh,
watching. Bree.
my sister joined too. She said, oh, that's good. Oh, our sister's supporting us. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
And so how can people like find you? Where can they find you if they're interested in working with you, connecting with you?
Yeah, so I am a Facebook girl, y'all. So I hang out on Facebook most of the time, but I do have an Instagram. It's Fit Culture for Her. I'm sure it's probably somewhere where y'all can see it, but it's Fit Culture for Her. And you can find me on Instagram. I do have a link in my bio where you can either, book an application call, or, get the freebie that I have, or come over to Facebook and join my fitness group and my fitness community over there. That's usually where I hang out most of the time. Instagram is a little bit overwhelming for me sometimes, but I think I'm getting the hang of it now. So yeah, that's where you can find me. Fit Culture for Her, on Instagram or on Facebook, or you can just friend me at Stephanie Riles on Facebook too. I accept folks over there too. You can see me and my crazy kids and us doing our homeschool stuff, and I try to provide a lot of helpful tips. Of course, I talk about mindset a lot. I do lives and just really try and help our community to change generational cycles,
Yes.
point blank period, because it is time. And I knew that there wasn't very many Black dietitians. Like, I knew that already, but there's like 2.6% of dietitians that are Black. And I was like, 2.6% in America, literally.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, we need more representation in that area because nutrition is so important and we're getting a lot of so much misinformation and people doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, I try to give obviously evidence-based information and
Yes.
on all platforms. So follow me over there. Say hello.
Y'all, and she provides some valuable content in her trainings on Facebook. I mean, there's even on her Instagram, there's some on there too. There's just such good content that, I mean, you can learn a lot from her just if you went and watched those. So I
Yeah.
highly recommend either, collaborating on Facebook, finding her there, or going to her Instagram.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna start putting more stuff on Instagram. I just started putting a little bit more stuff. I was like, let me put a little bit more stuff, but I have to like post on Instagram and then get off because it's a rabbit hole.
it is a rabbit hole. I will say Facebook was really overwhelming for me yesterday, but I was like, okay, I did it. I'm proud of myself. I just felt so lost, so lost. Um, but I am so grateful that you were able to come on and share these amazing tips with us on mindset. It was super eye opening. I know people are going to find it super helpful for themselves and even to bring to light things they didn't consider when starting their health and wellness journey. And that's what I like, is to challenge people to consider things that are outside of the normal narrative in terms of health and wellness. Oh no, I think I lost her. Um, if she doesn't join to come back, thank you all for your comments, your support. I will save this for the replay, and also put more of her information in the description box if it lets me do that. I always forget with live. But thank you all for your time and for being here. And I hope y'all have a good rest of your evening.